Hello, everyone. This is Whittle's Pod. Real conversations with founders, operators, and investors building in D2C, e commerce, and AI. No fluff, just the stuff that actually works, and really casual conversations with no questions shared to any of the guests. If you're building something, this one's for you. Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Whittle's Pods episode. Today we have Rubs with us, who is building Singla Intimates and also Trican app. Let us hear her entrepreneur journey and how is she managing, her serial entrepreneurship. Hey, Rubs, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you? I'm good.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. But yeah, take us through your uh, I, why and when did you start, and what was your background before getting into starting Singla or Trikin?
Yeah, for sure. So I think growing up, I was always sort of entrepreneurial without knowing what that word ever was. So I was always
Mm.
starting little businesses, whether it was selling like almond butter to people on my street or selling phone cases or starting little like any way I could make a product and sell it. That was always super fun for me. Like school projects where I would start little businesses as a project, I was always really passionate about that. I started my career in the fashion industry working at a really popular Canadian brand called Aritzia. Um, just in the sales department, and I worked for a couple other fashion brands from a young age. Was always super interested in fashion.
Okay.
And my first company, Singla Intimates, started around 2021 during COVID after I'd worked in the fashion industry and just gotten really passionate about this new wave of
Mm-hmm.
better for you brands. So I think
Right.
now it's really popular, right? Like everything's sustainable and non-toxic and clean beauty at Sephora. But I think
Right.
5, 6 years ago, like that was like really emerging. Like Everlane and Reformation were still new. So that's really where my passion for the space came from, and I felt like I could make an impact. I
Mm-hmm.
chose the intimates category because I felt like it was a little bit more untouched versus something like swimwear or activewear or
Right.
socks. Still, honestly, massively growing categories, but I thought intimates. I was like, hey, like, is any big competitor really challenging Victoria's Secret?
Right.
Obviously, yes. Like we have Skims now, we have NYX. Like there
Mm.
was Fenty by Rihanna at the time. Like there are some great like new players in the market, but I think Victoria's Secret is one of those legacy companies like a Lululemon that hasn't been challenged in a long time. And I was like, great. Like I honestly really naive at the time. I was still in business school. It was kind of
Okay.
my first taste of real entrepreneurship, but I was like, I can make an impact here. I put together some of my ideas, pitched it to friends and family, pitched it to some local accelerators and pitch competitions, and ended up getting my first round of funding
Mm.
to bootstrap this thing. It was like 15, $20,000 at the time. Um, I knew nothing about manufacturing and sourcing, so I went down this like again, I wanted to play in this better for you area, and I had no experience doing that. So I did two things. Like one,
Mm-hmm.
I went down this massive manufacturing rabbit hole. I started talking to everyone, and from Italy to China to India, on like manufacturing, like how to make a great product, but also working for other people, which I think is not maybe talked about enough in entrepreneurship. Like
Right.
obviously, you have to be a go-getter, you have to be a starter, and I think all entrepreneurs are a little bit different and weird, and like there's a reason you want to work for yourself. But I've
Mm.
always been of the mindset of like, I need to be coachable, I need to learn from other people. So I ended up getting a job working for some other D2C founders in Toronto. I learned
Mm-hmm.
a ton. I also ended up moving to Sweden for 6 months to work in the sustainable textile manufacturing industry. Super
Mm.
niche on a whim off of a cold email. I was like, I need to go to the root of like where this industry is all starting. So I moved to Europe for a bit because Europe is really where fashion lives, right? I was like, yeah,
I
I
know.
could start a brand in Toronto, but the way people are doing it here and just drop shipping things from China, I don't want to do that. I want to be different. I want to build a business that is here to last a really long time instead of just making some quick cash from D2C projects, which I had like done in the past. So yeah, I moved to Sweden. I worked for a bunch of other people while like sourcing product for my brand and getting it up and running over 2 years. So the process was a bit slower and untraditional versus what you should be doing, right? Like you should be launching fast and iterating fast, but I did not take that approach at all because I knew I wanted to build a brand that would last for like 20 plus years. That was like my only goal. So I wasn't trying to, I wasn't racing against a clock, which is not the
Right.
typical startup advice. And obviously, not the advice you should get like would give to like a tech founder, for example, but it worked for me.
Yeah.
So I've been operating Singla like properly for like 3 years. We started off again, like I said, a school business project, a
Hmm.
lifestyle project while I was working in the industry. Um, I also like I have a bunch of different corporate experiences. I was like in venture capital for a bit, then I was in corporate CPG, like skip all of that, and then we actually ended up opening a brick and mortar store in Toronto for Singla. Again, really
Oh.
untraditional D2C advice,
Hmm.
right? Like you should build online first, build in public, get a social following, then explore retail. But I had
Right.
always been passionate about retail, and I was like, because we're doing intimates, that's a way we can stand out. So we
Right.
opened up a pop-up store in Toronto here at Stacked Market. Um, we had a great run. We got to meet our customers in real life. We had honestly this like the sales, the economics, like they actually really worked for us because we were intimates and people needed to try it on if they didn't know
Hmm.
about our brand. And that is actually how we got our real start in like D2C and like got the flywheel going on D2C. Is like we had all these customers from in person who became recurring online, and then we kind of did more like organic marketing online. And yeah, so the brand has been on a very untraditional journey for the last 5 years. Like not necessarily advice I would give to every other D2C founder, but it's um
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You can make it work for you. And
Right.
along the way, I've dabbled in other, like I said, I was in venture capital on the investing side for a bit. I've worked for other founders,
Hmm.
just in the last 6 months, I think with AI and Claude and becoming so mainstream, like
Hmm.
different friends or people have approached me on like different opportunities. So like I've definitely had a bunch of side hustles while doing Singla, but now I'm really focused on building Singla and something new I'm working on called Trykin,
Right.
which is software in the fitness industry, which
Right.
all kind of ties in with my focus on like consumer health and wellness and consumer brands. But yeah,
Makes sense.
that's my spiel. That was really long.
I mean, you pretty much, you know, I I I was loving this point that you want to keep it sustainable in terms of building the brand for the next 20 years or making the brand stay in the market for next 20 years, where a lot of young founders out there are not keeping that as a, this fast success, fast, exits like many other brands has done. In D2C space, I feel it's not the way to go as a business founder in D2C, being in D2C, not as a tech founder, as you have mentioned rightly. But what is that point that made you to, I mean, made you to feel that I have to build this brand for the next 20 years? What is that, hit, or why?
Yeah, that's a good question. And things can always change, but it's I think like fashion brand founder or like physical good founder who's a solo founder feels
Hmm.
this way. Like it's just my baby. It's like raising a kid. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like I designed this product, I sourced it, I created this brand out of nothing, and now we have people who repurchase products like 5 times. Like that is just
Hmm.
insane to me. And I think the beauty again of we have things like Shopify, right? It's not like I have to sit in a physical store and commit to it for 20 years. We have the beauty
Right.
of Shopify and like the internet, and
Right.
I can communicate with my customers through social media and email. So the business can be whatever I want it to be at that point in time. Like I can take a break for 6 months if I want to. I could go on this hyper scaling journey if I wanted to. And I think it's just so it is a passion project. Like I will admit, like
Right.
that's why I'd never raised venture capital or like took that route.
Right.
Yeah, so I just love it.
Right. Coming to the product, what is the USP, or like why are you trying to solve this problem? What is the problem actually there in the product side, and what are you trying to, you know, let's say a USP with the big brands out there which you have mentioned? How are you trying to compete with them?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to I think that the interesting thing, I think any physical product or fashion product, even though it's unique, at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
it's a commodity. Like you're gonna create something unique, but then like 100 brands will also follow. So I
Right.
can't say like the product is like proprietary, but I think the
Mm.
brand and like where we're positioned is this middle ground between hyper fashionable, I don't know, like Fleur du Mal, Victoria's Secret, like
Hmm.
Gucci, like really like late, like sexy, like lingerie and intimates.
Yeah,
There's a ton
yeah,
of those brands. And then there's like all the value prop of brands like Pact or all those like really sustainable, better for you, 100% cotton brands or
right,
like Nyx, all of these brands I love, by the way. I feel like there's this middle ground where like the consumer is
right,
looking for something more elevated in the better for you segment. So like
right.
Pact is amazing, but if you're someone who cares about fashion and your
Mm-hmm.
identity is tied to brands like Rhode or Ilia or like Clean Beauty or Westman Atelier, like these elevated brands for women, there is no and intimates is kind of a forgotten category. Like I think there's a ton in clean skincare. I think there's a ton of cool activewear brands like, Vuori and Set Active. I think underwear
Yeah,
is this forgotten category where like the repurchase rate like should be higher. Like consumers should be purchasing it more because it's like you have to replace your
exactly.
underwear, but it's something people aren't thinking about. So I think it's driving education of like why you need underwear, why you need better for you underwear and then fitting into the lifestyle of a very specific type of consumer, like not trying to be for everybody.
Right, right. So let's go back when you sourced the product, manufactured it. Then when is that product market fit happened that you feel like there is a gap in the market and I found the right product? And what is the channel that you have used to reach your first customers?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I will say when I was building the product, also untraditional advice, but I
Hmm.
wasn't bringing my customers along the journey with me. I was building for myself. I was like, I want to do this. I'm just going to build a product that I like because I think I have good taste.
You have become your
Really
customer by
naive.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah, which is like super naive, right? Like that's
yeah,
rarely
yeah,
true. Like people always say they're building for themselves, but even I know that's not true.
yeah.
Um, Again, like it was my first time. It was like a low stakes venture in the beginning. So I was like, I'm gonna build for myself. I tried to, and like fashion is notorious for having really high MOQs. So like
Mm,
my first challenge was like making the smallest possible quantity of first collection possible with this like really premium material from Italy.
mm,
Um, so I did that, and our first collection, which was the Nordic Black collection, it actually sold out and people really loved it. Like
mm-hmm.
fingers crossed. But I've also had L's. Like I've had collections that have like not sold and I still have the inventory. So um
Right.
in terms of product market fit, I think we were really lucky to have like so how did I reach my I mean there's a few questions. So how did I reach my first customers?
Yes,
I
yes.
really
The
used
channel you reached through them, is it like Amazon? Is it like a marketplace? Or where have you placed your product? Or is it like a network, inner network and a community that you have built and reached out to them? How is the product market fit that you have made?
I think it's three things. I think the number one thing that worked the most was leveraging in-person activations
Right.
because the product is just a really great quality when you touch it. Plus, it's intimate. So, like, people just don't trust us yet if we're a new company. So, I
Mm,
leverage anyone who would give me a shot. I would rent like one day pop ups in studios around Toronto and do like a one day show.
right, right.
People come look at the product. So that was like the number one thing that really worked for us and got the flywheel going on D2C. But we also focused on obviously organic TikTok and Instagram, girls behind the scenes
Mm,
building.
mm,
I honestly in all of this, I made a ton of mistakes as well. Like it's not all been smooth sailing, but then yeah, the organic kind of worked. And then
mm,
lastly would be partnerships and leveraging communities that already exist. So other businesses that already have communities that align with ours, seeing how I can partner with
yeah,
you or show up at your store and put my product there. Those are the initial things that are really hard to do from scratch, like opening
yeah,
up a brick and mortar store or you're starting an Instagram page but you have zero followers. Like
yeah.
it's all easier said than done, but those are the things I did in the beginning and some combination of those worked out. And that's how we built our email list and now we're focused mostly on like retention and then like getting more customers through Instagram.
Right, right. And I mean, I can see that you have recently started building your personal brand, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, your feed shows a strong mix of lifestyle, fitness, and product. Is there an intention of building that personal brand, or does it directly, you know, comes out naturally?
Yeah, I think my entire journey with Singla, I mean, Singla is my last name. So people have
Yeah,
always like,
I can see that.
me and the brand have been so intertwined. I've
Right.
had like amazing people on the team as well, but I think at the end of the day, the brand has just been so tied to my identity. And when I talk about the things that I'm passionate about, when I go deep into the textile science and why we use the fabrics we use and why they're from Italy and my ethos behind the brand and the sourcing journey that I've been on and my experience in the textile industry, when I
Mm.
talk to like face to face with people about that, they always get into it. So from day one, the feedback from my community and my customers and my advisors has always been, you need to build a personal brand. You need to talk about this online. I was always
Yes.
hesitant. Again, I was in a different stage of life. I was in business school, plus I was working in corporate. So like my online brand for the many
Mm.
years, I didn't want to. I honestly, I
To
was
be
like, I was
public.
nervous and
Yeah.
afraid of putting myself out there because um, I didn't know what direction my career would take at the time. Like I could have been in finance, I could have been in I don't know, like many. I could have
Right.
done many different things. But people have always told me, like, Rubiana, your thoughts and the way you talk about things, like, it deserves a personal brand. And I've always thought about it and I've never executed on it. So
Right.
that's why I've recently just started because now I'm truly just on my own building and why not? And I think it's become really destigmatized. Like, I think 6 years ago it was a little bit different.
Right.
Now, today, it's like everyone has a personal
It
brand, and if you
is
don't, you're the odd one out.
exactly. I mean, it is a go-to market strategy for every founder out there. Either he's building a tech product or like a D2C product.
Hmm.
That is one of the first GTM strategy, which is right now. We see that's how we met. See, simple as that. I
Yeah.
from Toronto, I've seen you in my feed. Then we have got connected and we are doing a pod today, and that's how personal branding is working right now. But I could completely relate to what you were mentioning, that uh, I since I was being a entrepreneur for the last 5 years, and this is the year I've started my personal brand as well, because the same reasons that you have gone through. And also another part, that I was in Paris for like a 6 months course, summer course, where I've done luxury brand management, and
Mm.
I've closely worked with Karl Lagerfeld's founder and the team behind there, right? So uh, when it comes to a luxury brand, when it comes to a brand which is addressing more, I mean, middle ground markets, what is that difference you find a way to reach your customers? What is that small thing that you try to place it in your brand to reach to the right customer? It shouldn't go to the upper class, it shouldn't go to the middle, it should reach the right consumer. How are you trying to figure that out?
I think positioning in adjacent consumer categories is important. So having an outline for who is my ideal customer, and this is through again like 5 years of like hundreds of customer
Yeah.
conversations. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to show up on day one. On day one you're going to have an idea that's going to be totally wrong and then you'll improve it. But
Right.
now I know I have this idea of like my ideal customer. What do they eat? What do they put on their face? How do they do their hair? What brand is their t-shirt? What brand is their pants? Like you have to have an idea in every other category they're consuming in. What are they
Mm.
consuming and what brand and what price point and how are those brands positioned? And then every time you're writing a copy or making a content or doing anything for your business or designing a product, you have to think, okay, like this person on paper consuming all of these brands that are positioned in this way, do they want that? So I think I always go back to like how we're positioned in those adjacent categories. I don't have it perfectly
That
figured
is a
out, but
really
that's
that
what
is a
I'm
really
doing.
good insight. That is a really good insight. I think I've never heard this insight from any of the D2C founder out there. That is, I mean, it becomes easy when you try to check out other brands where they are placed for targeting this consumer. You can easily know where you have to place yourself. That makes really sense.
Hmm.
Right. Nice. So, yeah, what coming to, you know, a biggest red flag you have faced in entrepreneurship, when you were in a deep hole situation that you had to navigate and make things work. What is that situation that you have navigated? Have you come across it? Please take us through that.
Like biggest obstacle or challenge?
Yeah.
I think in fashion, like I guess there's so many, but I don't feel like
There's
I
one.
feel like everything is just kind of have been able to figure it out. Like I think initially manufacturing, sourcing, and designing is the hardest in fashion because if you don't want to drop ship, it is
Mm-hmm.
really, really hard with no and most fashion founders have no experience in fashion and they just try to start a fashion brand
Right.
and you will get, manufacturers will give you really high MOQs. They'll say one thing, they'll execute another. You'll
Yeah.
create samples and the fit and design isn't what you asked for, or the sampling went well, but the actual batch came in and it's bad quality and it's damaged. That happened to me. My first collection was 60% damaged. So I think manufacturing's always been a constant struggle, managing both quality and timelines with manufacturers, right? When you're a small, even a medium-sized brand, like they don't have time for you, right? Like you have to really sell them on your brand
All
and
the
why
time.
they should give
Yeah.
you their time. So that's been challenging to navigate, and our supply chain has really changed every single year. Now I'm actively in a phase of redoing our supply chain. I'm actually going to China this year. I will be like figuring things out again because like Europe has been it's been
Right.
challenging. So and like the customer demands are changing as well on the quality and the styles they want. So I think manufacturing has
Yeah.
been really hard, but you just have to be like really persistent and not give up. That's what I would tell any fashion founder. Like
Right.
don't give up, and be very skeptical of every conversation you have. Like don't just trust people. Like make sure there's paperwork in place. Um, Other than that, I think the biggest challenge is like finding good talent and building a team. I think that's really hard, but I
Yeah.
think it's always good to be, in that sense, building in public, building your personal brand. So you're always meeting great talent to work with you along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Right. Oh, how's it been, being a solo founder? I mean, I guess you've been building it solo all the while. How is it difficult, or is it your way to take things like that? Or have you ever felt like I would have had a co-founder? It would have been great.
I think that I mean shout out to two people, Katie and Cindy, who were partners in the business at different points in time,
Right.
who were like who like supported me a lot. So I was never alone, but I
Mm-hmm.
did, yeah, like I am a solo founder and the brand is like really my vision. I think I've gotten comfortable with that. It took me a long time to be okay with that because I see a lot of other consumer brands and companies with co-founders, right? There's that typical YC advice of like, we only invest in co-founders. I see the value in a
Yeah.
team. I think entrepreneurship's really hard, and if you have a partner or partners to do it with, all the better. But I've really come to terms with the fact that I am actually really good operating as a solo founder, and I'm confident when I say that.
Right.
I would love to have a co-founder someday, maybe in a different business or a brand. I love collaborating with other people. In the past few months, I've started some side projects with some friends, and I do
Mm.
love collaborating. I'm a big collaboration person, but I am a good solo founder. Like I genuinely think I am very decisive. I know how I like
Yeah.
things, so
Yeah.
it works for this company.
Makes sense. Uh, and also building from Toronto as a D2C founder, you know, what's the biggest advantage or like disadvantage you found it there than other hubs? As you said, you have been in Europe for a while, and how's it? Is it? Tell me the difference of D2C space in Toronto or like in other countries.
Oh, I love this question. I think Toronto has such a unique D2C ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't exist anywhere else. Like it's so many brands that you especially in the space that I'm in, consumer health and wellness and in fashion that have gotten big around North America, like
Mm-hmm.
NYX, Sahajan, 437, Activewear.
Is Grunts from there?
Grunes?
Grunts.
No, they're
No.
from the
Okay.
US.
Okay.
We have, Tara Bosch with Smart Sweets and Snackish. We
Mm,
have
mm.
Lululemon, Aritzia. There's honestly, I'm blanking right now, but truly some of the like
No, I think you
most
have named
insane.
biggies already.
Yeah, like Saks Underwear, Trent Kitch. He went to my business
Oh,
school. Like, I'm so grateful for the community of D2C founders we have in Toronto. Like, I'm a part of this WhatsApp group of D2C founders who is just absolutely insane here.
mm,
I think the challenge is that in Canada, we are just like any small European country. We have not many consumers, not much population, and people don't have deep pockets here. We have a very small segment that is like premium that can afford to spend like discretionary income. We have higher
mm,
taxes, so
mm.
it's a tough consumer landscape in terms of local consumers, but in that sense, it's a great place to test. That's why for me, all those physical activations, having a store here, I was able to really test with every type of customer,
Right.
and
And the
like
feedback is
build.
also very, I would say being around a lot of those brands, the customers' feedback is very on the upper note.
Yeah, and they're still very picky, right? If they have
Exactly.
limited dollars to spend, they're picky. And so it builds very gritty entrepreneurs here to actually get a Canadian recurring customer for your D2C brand or consumer brand is very hard.
Right.
But it's a great place to test because then you're not putting yourself, in those embarrassing early days, you're not putting yourself in front of people in New York who can just walk over to your competitor and buy that
Yeah.
product who don't have patience for your BS.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Canadians also have more of a heart. They like good storytelling. But I think after you've tested like Othership as well, they're expanding rapidly in the US, like
Okay.
Nut Bar is
Okay.
opening in the US. They
Yeah.
all started in Canada. So
Mm,
it's a great place to test. There's so many great founders here.
mm.
I think it's an underrated place to build, and plus you can get cheaper talent and cheaper um, everything's cheaper, like resources,
Right.
email,
Yeah.
rent. Like it's a good place to build. But then once you do, you have
Mm.
to go to the US. You cannot scale D2C without running paid ads in the U. Like I guess you know this. You do this
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
living,
Yeah.
and you do
Yeah.
paid marketing.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. A follow-up
yeah.
question for this is that, where are your consumers? Who's your like most, which continent is your, is consuming your brand more and why? Was and is there a surprising element that, hey, I got a consumer from this part of the continent? Was it something like that? Have you experienced anything something like that?
I'd say honestly, at this point, we're early days still. Like 80% of our customers are in Canada. Like I'll be so
Hmm.
honest about that. But our US customers, like we've been trying to grow in the US more now through content, and they're weirdly like all coming from the middle of the US. Like I'm not getting a lot of orders from like LA or like anything like that. So, because I think those
Right.
consumers are really picky, they have so many options. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we've gotten some orders from Europe as well. I think like lingerie in Europe is like really big.
Big. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think there's so much opportunity for a brand. Like I'm a big world traveler. Like I love traveling and living in other parts of the world.
I
I've
could
like
see
lived
that.
in
I could see that. Yeah.
um and anytime I go, obviously I'm like carrying a suitcase of product around with me and talking to local people and um I
Getting
think
the
I think
reviews.
yeah, like I think intimates is growing. It's one of those things that it's a you really need money to be able to invest in your underwear, right? Like that's a weird
Right. Right.
concept. Like you need to be, it's a privilege, right? To be like, oh, I can just expend money on underwear. Like I'll be so honest,
Agree.
that's a luxury, but I think that segment of accessible luxury is growing in general.
Right. Right. But I also think, Rubina, speaking to you, that APAC markets has also a really big market for you because the deep pockets here are increasing in number, as you can see
Hmm.
globally. What is your thought? And because I know I do paid marketing for living, and I see, global brands trying to target us as consumers now. What is your point on it?
Interesting. I've honestly not had many conversations about this, so I'm not maybe like the best equipped to answer, but I think I've heard this. I've heard this
Right,
sentiment,
right.
and I do
I'll tell you a
see.
reason, the other reason, because APAC markets don't have many options, whereas the markets you're targeting are pretty competitive. But whereas when
Yeah,
you try to reach people here and you give a good product and a good storyline, I think you can capture the market here. As what I know. I've seen a lot of brands growing their markets in APAC markets, and I think you should try it out.
that's a great idea. Yeah, we should
Yeah,
take that conversation
yeah,
offline.
yeah.
I remember I had one customer from Dubai buy a bunch of
Mm,
stuff. They came into our store, they bought like 10 things.
mm,
And I was like, "Oh, like have like just tell me like why like what brought you into this store?" And they
right,
just were like, apparently in Dubai, that's a big market for investing in
right,
underwear and stuff like I had no idea, but I would be interested. I think Dubai
right,
or even Asia, like I'm Indian, right? So like
right.
sometimes I like
You
family
know,
or friends
India,
like, "Oh, we should do this
in
in India."
India is another. It's like an underdog now. It's like, have you heard about a brand called Comet, or like uh, Comet is a shoewear brand right now, or like Blue
With a
Orange,
K or with a C?
Comet.
Okay, I'm gonna search it up. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, and there is another brand called Blue Orange.
Mhm.
Go through these two brands, and they have just built a brand out of India targeting Gen Z markets, and they've clocked now they are clocking 20 to 30 million dollars revenues, both of them. So
Interesting.
if you go deep into Indian markets, Gen Z's mindset, and now people are ready to spend how much ever you ask if you're giving them a quality or a story around your product.
Yeah. Um,
But I think I'm selling India
yeah.
right now here.
It's something to think about for sure. I think it just comes down then to logistics, where
Yeah,
I live, distribution, warehousing, shipping,
yeah, yeah,
and having a team there. But that's interesting.
yeah. I mean, I think we can take this conversation offline.
Totally.
Right. I mean, uh, is there an inspiration that, while you were building Singla, I mean, is there a founder or is there a brand that you have inspired a lot, and, try to, see, all of us build different things and we take inspirations of whatever you do. Is there someone like that, or how is that to you?
There's There's many, honestly. I love talking to founders, either locally or at events. I love meeting founders and learning their story. I've listened to I think there's a podcast on Spotify called The Founder. It's literally just
Hmm.
called The Founder Podcast, where they go through biographies of like all the famous founders and CEOs. And I
Right.
listen to like every single episode. But I guess a couple that stand out to me. Number one, a little bit controversial, but Chip Wilson, who founded Lululemon. Obviously, there's
Oh,
just a lot of like bad press in the news about him, but I think
yeah,
when I read his from a purely founder perspective, I've read his book and biography and how he thinks about building the brand, and when he started Lulu, it was just with like these really delusional values, and like he was truly a visionary on like the ecosystem and the world he wanted to create, and I've always approached Singla from that lens. I love thinking about like our messaging and our pillars and the movement we're trying to create, and like I'm as much into the brand as I am into sales. Like I'm really big on both. So I think Chip is a great example. Obviously some like more modern role models. Like I think Tara Bosch is so freaking cool. She's
mm,
from Canada, dropped out of school. I think she's just a visionary, and now she's doing it again with Snackish.
yeah,
I obviously like Emma Greed. She's
yeah,
cool. Sarah Blakely. Like I love people who are really scrappy and create
right.
something out of nothing that is huge and don't have a typical resume. Like did banking
Being
for 5 years
delusional.
and private equity for
Yeah,
5 years and then became a
right.
founder. I love seeing people who just see a small problem, start a small like Nike too, like Phil Knight. He literally I don't think he meant to start a global fashion brand. Like it just kind of
Right.
it happens over time, and that's what it comes down to. Like it takes years.
overnight. Thank you, Rubina. Thanks for your time. Uh, Maybe let's do a part two later, maybe next year, or like when you're making Singla going global and making big numbers, we'll get again on another pod and we can sit down for another chat. And thanks for your time.
This hits home, drop a follow, share it with a founder who needs to hear it, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This really helps us to get more authentic founders' journeys in front of you and founders who are building. New episodes drop every week, and see you in the next one. Thank you.